We're very lucky today to be interviewing quite a unique podcast interviewee. We've got Ben Simpson here. Ben's a young individual. He's a motivated young professional from Launceston boy originally that founded a profitable e-commerce business at the age of 17. He graduated at Launceston College in 2017, studying business and commerce. He founded The Official Sportswear in 2016, which is a sportswear company that offers individuals, teams, leagues, and associations the opportunity to create professional, high-quality custom sporting apparel. Building on his success, Ben is now deploying his operational, marketing, management, and leadership skills as the head of operations for Nuggets News. Ben is a value-driven individual that enjoys being at the forefront of the fast-moving crypto space. Cryptocurrency, for anyone that doesn't know, it's a form of currency. It's a digital form of currency without the input of banks, and it's encrypted, so you preserve the safety of your personal information, and is passionate about solving the most challenging problems that startup companies face today. Nuggets News is co-founded by Alex Saunders, Ben himself, and Megan Steekey. Nuggets News is an Australian digital media channel committed to increasing awareness and adoption of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Founded as a YouTube channel in early 2017 by Alex, Nuggets News has quickly grown to 4 full-time employees, impressively. Nuggets News produces free beginner-level content for cryptocurrency enthusiasts and investors, as well as those interested in financial markets. And for the record, I've actually got a small part of my portfolio in cryptocurrency. Not necessarily recommending anyone else to do the same. I think it's important to get some advice, but it's an exciting space. So free beginner level content for anyone that's enthusiastic about cryptocurrency or wants to learn more about it, or investors, as well as those that are just interested in the market. This content is tailored and distributed to their 100,000 plus followers across YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and other social media platforms. I recently had the pleasure of podcast interviewing a very tremendously inspirational lady named Kate McCready. I said to Kate, Kate, do you know any other inspirational individuals that would be fantastic candidates to help inspire our younger generation? She mentioned Ben, and I'm based in Launceston myself. It's great to see you young guys out there giving it a crack. I mean, I'm young, but you're younger than me, I think. How young are you, mate?
21.
21. It's just it really, like, to see you young guys out there giving it a crack, because most people out there don't. Most people out there, that they just trot along. A lot of people locally are unemployed, and then they wait for the weekends. Was there any pressure for you growing up to, just party, live for the party, not really set any goals, go to school with a lot of people? How did you buck the trend? What made you buck the trend?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say I didn't do all that early on. I was definitely didn't mind going out on weekends, and certainly still do that to this point. But
Same.
Yeah, same. I think there's a mixture of both, right? I don't think it's one or the other. Like, I think you can still enjoy yourself and go out and hang out with friends, and I do enjoy drinking the weekend, but I think it's having a balance as well. Yeah. I certainly love what I do. I think that's what makes it easy, right? Like, if you enjoy what you do and you're passionate about what you do, Monday to Friday, you certainly don't look forward to the weekends as much as perhaps, doing a job that you don't enjoy doing. So being pretty lucky in a sense that, my work doesn't feel like work. I get to get up and do what I enjoy every day. So that's, makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. And so how do you, I mean, you're a busy guy, you're managing, multiple families, different trees with all with their own branches on them. How do you maintain a balance? Because me growing up, I had 3 companies at one point, and I love business, and that was my main. It's a bit different now. How do you maintain a balance? Do you what is a balance for you? Do you engage in any kind of other hobbies or sports? Is business your just primary passion?
I certainly got it wrong or not got it wrong. It's hard to balance. I think it's always a moving beast. I am come from a sporting background as well. My whole family loves sport. You know, I wasn't a great footy player, but I played a little bit of footy back in the day, basketball, you know, cricket, kind of did it all. But it comes to a point where you can't do everything. And I think you've got to make a choice at some point at diving into something that you're really passionate about. And for me, I really wasn't going anywhere with my cricket career or basketball or anything like that. And I love business.
Yeah.
I think some people are able to manage a range of different things, whether it's multiple companies or sporting and things like that. I did that for a little while, tried to manage 2 companies and found I wasn't doing it all that great. Things started to fall away, you know, sleep, health, friends and family, because you're always inundated with stuff to do, right? So that really wasn't what I wanted to continue doing. So I ended up dropping my sportswear company and just pretty much went 100% into what I'm doing now, which is Nuggets News. And that for me is a little bit more comfortable because I know what I'm kind of getting up and doing every day. I'm not trying to jump in and, you know, put different hats on with different businesses and different things like that. I couldn't quite manage that, but I think some people can. So I think it's up to your kind of personal preference.
Did you when you made that decision to drop the sportswear company? I've been in the same position when I was running 3 companies at the same time. Did you feel like you failed at all? Did you feel like, oh, you know, because you see all these entrepreneurs and things, they say, never give in, never stop. But you had to give in. You had to give in to your company. Did you feel like a failure at all or anything like that? Did you feel like you had abandoned or let your younger self down that once committed just to having that company? Did you have that feeling?
Look, I didn't. A lot of my close friends and family asked me that question. They're like, "Hey, you know, like you put 2 or 3 years into this thing. Are you happy to kind of let this go? It's kind of your baby." And I didn't really have that thought at the time, and I still don't. I don't regret giving it away. For me, it was a learning experience, right? Like I made a crap ton of mistakes.
Me too.
You know, lost a lot. Yeah, yeah. You lose a bucket load of money setting up a business. Um, you know, I think the lessons you learn from doing something like that, communicating to people, sourcing products, selling it, like all that is just a stepping stone towards going and doing bigger and better things. And without the experience of the sportswear company, I wouldn't have been able to do what I do today. So I don't look at it as a failure at all. It's probably one of the better things I've done, even though it was only 2 or 3 years. I needed to do that to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, people talk about, you know, going out and stuff on the weekends as that can be expensive. I tell you what, one of the most expensive hobbies can be business. You know, it's an expensive hobby to partake in. And I think I see it as like poker. You know, if you're good, you know, poker's still a risk. But if you're good at poker, your chances are a lot higher. And, you know, I love the fact that you've taken, you know, you're a positive guy, and I already know that. And the reason why I know that is because you've taken out the learnings out of it and you're using those learnings into your future companies. And I just think that's fantastic. Would you see yourself as a positive person, or do you know, or anything like that?
I think so. I mean, we all have our tough times, right? Like we all have our challenges, but you know, I think for me, you know, trying to aim to be, you know, 70 or 80% of the week on a positive note, I think you can't be too hard on yourself when you do have those tough times,
Yeah.
especially in business. I think, and I've been able to kind of step back and map my, I guess you could say my feelings and emotions throughout business. And it is like it's like a slippery slide, right? Like you have these euphoric kind of days where business is going really good. Everything's happening well. And then you also have the other side where you kind of coming down from that euphoric state where things are challenging, something's happened, product's broken, something's happened with the staff. But it's about kind of stepping back and seeing where you're at in that cycle and just going, hey, you know, it's going to get better. You know, you're going to have that cycle again. So really not getting down in the dumps, but also on the flip side, not getting too, you know, happy and euphoric when things are up there, because it's not always going to be like that. Business is up and down. So yeah, I think stepping back and see where you're at the cycle, I think is it's pretty important.
Yeah. It's an emotional, there's no doubt it's an emotional journey. And growing up with your sporting background, you have a cricketing background. Am I not mistaken?
Yeah, it's a amateur cricketing background at that, but yeah, I did play cricket for Riverside. Yeah.
And are there any things that you learnt in sport or even at school, with groups of friends and, social dynamics. Is there anything that you learned out of there that you carry into business?
Yeah, sport for me, I was found out pretty early on I wasn't a great basketball player, so I actually turned to the other side of the court and threw the whistle on. Back when I was probably 13 or 14, and I ended up refereeing for 6 or 7 years, right through kind of my teenager kind of life. And that was again one of the biggest learning experiences for me as a referee. Dealing with adults that are playing basketball, angry people, um, being able to communicate to people. That was probably the biggest learning experience that I learned from that. In environments where it is heated, it's a close game, there's a lot going on, being able to manage uh, situations like those in a calm kind of manner, being able to communicate to everyone involved, that was a big learning experience. And, through playing sport as well, I mean, I love the team environment, loved all the people I met through sport. I'm still mates with a lot of them. I
Yeah.
think that kind of leadership and kind of team environment as well, it all kind of plays for the business, right? I think business is now my sport. Yeah, don't have the team colors on. I've got the logo on, but it's similar. It's very similar.
Yeah, it's funny. Because I'm a dentist, I've got my own dental practice, and I never forget reading a forum where they used to, before I owned my practice, they're like, it's like a game of, it's like the American forums, they're like, it's like a game of gridiron. And it is, there's
Totally.
points and there's efficiencies and times and time management, and, you pass it on to one person, you delegate it onto the other person. So for anyone that could be watching this, let's say a young person's watching this and they've got a part-time job, or they've left school and they've got a full-time job, and maybe they're thinking about starting a business. Is there any skills any skills that you think they should try and really work on there if they do want to, like, later down the track work on a business? Is there anything they can try and refine or improve on in their job now, such as communication, or any communication tips that you have to give to them that they can use later in business?
It's a good kind of question. I think for me, like honing in, like if you are deciding or you want to start a business, really honing in on something that you're passionate about. And I think if you can hone in on the thing that you inherently then want to either sell or become part of the business, that's where I'd probably recommend spending the majority of your time. I think I've been quite lucky with my business career in it's all been quite natural progressions and kind of scratching your own itch. Like I've always had some sort of problem that the thought then came, like, how do I solve this problem? And then like naturally kind of business kind of appeared. So I wouldn't put business first. I'd have business secondary and focus in on the thing that you love and you want to spend 24 hours a day kind of working on, and really getting a good understanding and about that hobby. And that might be gaming, or you might want to go traveling, or I don't know, you could do a range of different things, whatever makes you happy, and then focusing on that and flipping that out into a business. But things like just consuming content. So that's the other thing I would recommend. I think as a business, as a business owner and a startup, you need to wear 15, 20 different hats. I don't think there's one skill necessarily that would get you through the whole way. I'm definitely not great at a lot of things, but I'm okay at a bunch of things.
Yeah.
So just consuming content, surrounding yourself with people that are better than you,
Yeah.
that have been places where where you kind of want to go. Just surrounding yourself with people that you can learn from is probably one of the biggest
Are there
lessons.
any local kind of associations or organizations that young entrepreneurs, or any kind of online forums that you could recommend people involve themselves with to get more of an education about business, or to surround themselves by people that will support them with starting a business? Can you recommend any?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, locally, so this is what I had trouble with a little bit as well. I think the entrepreneurship life is inherently lonely, right? Like it is quite difficult to meet. You'd probably, been in similar positions where you're building this company. It is quite lonely. I think just searching on the internet, like LinkedIn's been really good. You can connect with people, just jumping in, sliding into people's DMs that you just want to catch up.
Yep.
You know, or whether it's over, I mean, nowadays it just can be, Zoom with the whole coronavirus stuff, like you and I catching up, or I think, yeah, and just trying to just search online, check out some businesses that you enjoy, check out their About Us page, see who they're about,
Yep.
kind of who are the staff involved. and just meet them. I'm not a part of any kind of group, entrepreneurial groups, but I do have a range of kind of mentors and people I kind of work with and talk to about business that I think, yeah, I'd probably recommend doing that as
I don't
well.
think you
Yeah.
necessarily have to be associated with groups, but there are some available. There's the Launceston Chamber of Commerce. There's
Mm-hmm.
the Business Network, the BNAA group as well. There's some local ones in Launceston. I
Mm-hmm.
believe there may be an entrepreneurship academy as well.
Okay.
You don't have to necessarily, I don't think you have to necessarily be involved, but you just have to, I'd be looking at, as you said, consuming content, trying to, read across a variety of different resources, speak to a variety of different mentors, ask the right questions. There's a book
Mm-hmm.
called Tribe of Mentors. You mentioned scratch your own itch before, which is I learned that term from Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss has some tremendous questions that you can also use to ask mentors, questions that can really try to extract as much value as you can from who you're asking. I think it's important to ask successful people as well, people that have actually got a track record and have got the lashes on their back to prove it. Yeah, so I think no, that's and so I guess, was there anyone in your life, that was involved in business when you were young, that inspired you to develop a career at an early age? Any public figures or parents or anything like that? Are your parents in business?
Uh, Dad runs his own business. I mean, I was pretty lucky with my parents allowing me to quit school. That was probably the biggest. They gave me. I was pretty grateful that they gave me the opportunity to give it a crack. I mean, it was
What
a
age did you
pretty.
quit school?
Sorry, what was that?
What age did you quit school?
Started year 12, so I was, yeah, 17. I think it was 17. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that was I'd been running my business, the sportswear business for a couple of years. And I was a little bit, I was really kind of disengaged in the kind of college environment. I love the business class. But I
Yeah.
mean, the story I kind of gave the parents was, I was at the back of my accounting class on Zero, kind of doing digital accounting, trying to reconcile transactions and payments and things like that. And, in the bookkeeping class, we were just getting taught like manual accounting and ledgers and things like that. I'm like, is this a part of the curriculum where we actually learn how to do the digital side of accounting? That's, that's what most businesses use nowadays. And that wasn't a part of the course, and they couldn't, I needed help with that. They couldn't teach me. So I'm like, nah,
When you,
I can,
yeah. So
yeah.
when you asked your parents, when you said to them, I want to look at maybe quitting school and doing this full time, did they have to think about it for 6 months or 3 months? Were they initially resistant to you? A lot of pressure at that young age from parents to tell, they really want you to go down that kind of traditional path. You
Mm,
buck the trend in a way. It's a big step. It takes guts, especially, and the most gutsy probably thing to do is to face your parents and say, look, this isn't what I want to do. What was their
mm.
response like?
Look, I don't think they were surprised. They definitely needed to think about it a little bit. There was some kind of deadlines kind of put on this kind of quit school, right? Like I'm going to have to start, chipping in rent. They're going to give me 12 months, and at 12 months, I needed an update. A part of the deal as well was I had to get a mentor. So Stan, I got a mentor. He's recently kind of moved to WA, but I was working with Stan kind of on a fortnightly basis, and working with him to kind of again communicate to the parents about like progression and where I was kind of going to ensure I was on the right path. But
Yeah.
after the 12 months, then, I'd have to start paying the bills and, things like that, chipping in for the bills. So, I mean, the backup was always, I could go back to school
Yep.
and uni. I mean, there's always kind of that backup option, but I don't regret leaving at all. I think, I think some people, school necessarily isn't for them. That's kind of a cheesy way to kind of put it, but I learned a lot more in a hands-on experience. I made a bucket load of mistakes coming out of doing my own business. And I think that's where you get that fast track learning when you're in, for me anyway, hands-on, getting in and amongst it, making those mistakes, kind of in a dark room, with a blindfold, with a baseball bat swinging. That was kind of how I learned. You kind of find your feet after that. And I think that's why I've been able to perhaps progress a little bit quicker than some of my peers in the kind of the business aspect, because a lot of my friends that are going through uni are kind of still going through the theory stuff. They're going through uni, still got like 2 or 3 years to go, and I've already kind of got that head start, which has kind of put me in in a good position, I think.
Yeah, that's terrific. I think any of the viewers, I think you'd be surprised how willing mentors would be, successful mentors, how willing they'd actually be to help you and be a helping hand. I think when mentors have made a relative success of themselves, they almost sometimes see it as a social obligation to give something back. So don't ever be
Mm.
afraid to approach mentors and ask them for questions. I mean, Ben's been able to approach, a guy named Stan. So can you tell us about, so who is Stan? How did you find Stan? How did you approach Stan and get him to become your mentor? Who is he?
Yes, it was through it was on this is a few years back, but it was through an online like Launceston business program or something like that. I pretty much just shot them an email and said, "Hey, I need some help," pretty much, and they connected me with Stan, who was just kind of a local guy that really helped me out in the early days, kind of getting the structure of the business together, kind of doing a lot of the financial structures, getting the business kind of registered, helping me with I guess the internal structure, legal compliance, things like that,
Yep.
which really kind of kick-started the areas that I wasn't really familiar with.
Sure.
But then, Stan moved to WA and I kind of progressed into a more, or other areas, with Nuggets News, and we kind of required different skill sets from mentors and consultants and things like that. Now we've kind of got 3 or 4 guys that helped out. I think you make a good point. It may not seem it, but people are really keen to help out if you ask.
I
Like it
like to
only
help out as
requires to
well
ask.
because it makes them feel smart and desired.
Mm,
I like it when
mm,
people ask me questions because it makes me feel clever. If I can impart
mm.
wisdom, I can go, "Oh, here, young man, let me help you." I think it actually also makes them feel good. People like to hear themselves talk. What was Stan's
Mm.
background?
Stan had a finance background. He'd actually worked in some quite like large companies in WA with like mining and things like that. So he kind of had a very good understanding of quite larger businesses. So he was able to kind of take some of those kind of skills from working with 100 person plus organizations, and kind of take some of those skills and knowledge and kind of implement it in what was just a kind of a startup business back then.
Yeah,
Um, I think back then it was a lot about strategy and looking at. I think there's always in business an abundance of opportunity, but where you kind of place that your energy, you've only got a limited amount of resources, right? Especially if it's like a side hustle where you're doing a part-time job or school or something like that.
yeah,
You can only work from 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock, or later if you're a
yeah.
bit of a night owl. So positioning your time the best ROI positive kind of area within the business, it's pretty important.
Yeah. I think it's important for viewers to note that the government, I think, is investing a lot of money into young entrepreneurs these days. So Ben, if you want to start a business, or you want to find mentorship, or you want support, you'd be surprised how much available help there is from the government, especially if you're a young individual and you're wanting to dip your toe in the water. Loan subsidies and things like that. They're really trying to encourage that new breed of entrepreneurship, especially with the digital age now. The government knows what's going on. They see the data. They see the trends. What's your recommendation, Ben, for someone who, they would like to start a business and they think they've got an idea. There's something, as you said, scratch your own itch. There's something that they know that, local Launceston needs, or they know that anywhere in Australia, they know that there's something in their community that irritates them, and they want to start something, but they don't have a great amount of capital, which in my opinion, is the hardest thing to do, is acquiring the initial capital. They don't have much money, or they don't have really any money, but they want to do something. How would you advise someone to generate some capital, or get the resources to start a company? Because it costs money.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, money and time, right? Like I think that's the big thing, and I think you've got to be realistic too about business. I think one thing that I've learned, through the last 3 or 4 years is that what you see on the internet and kind of people portraying, how good business is, and you kind of make money while you sleep and kind of growth hack and all that kind of stuff. It like 98% of it is just a bit of a bunch of nonsense. Like it is
I think
very hard.
about 100% of it. I think almost about 100. There's no such thing as an easy dollar. And if someone promises
100%.
you an easy dollar, I would caution viewers to run
Yeah.
quickly. Don't just run quickly. But yes,
Totally.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think the other thing too is what I've learned anyway is that there is no blueprint. I think that the business isn't a set instructions on how you get from A to Z.
Yeah,
Every different circumstances are different. What I'd focus on if you do have that thing to go, crap, that's a good idea. Like I would want that or could see that, being helpful to me is really just honing in your product. I would start out by friends and family, like build, no matter what it is, maybe it's a piece of software or it's an app or it's helping people out with a service. Maybe you have such a great knowledge in some areas, really focusing in on your knowledge in your product first and then worry about the business later.
yeah,
I think the business side can come secondary to a good product.
yeah.
No point having a great business with no good product because you're not going to have a business. Really
Absolutely.
build up
Yeah.
that core understanding or that service or whatever you're trying to kind of produce in a business. Really focus in on that first. Get your friends and family involved. See if they enjoy it, and then if they're like you got a bit of feedback, use that to iterate, and then start to see if you can perhaps sell and make some money.
Absolutely. I mean, there's some great. You can also run some surveys as well. I think there's a website called
Mm.
PickFu. You can also
Mm-hmm.
run on, local Facebook groups.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also outsource someone else to do the surveys for you, but that requires capital. Now, there's some tremendously helpful resources like fiverr.com, fiverr.com, airtasker.com. Um, some tremendous resources. And I agree with what you say there. You've kind of got to think about the end result and work backwards. You've got to think about is it a product that people are going to give you money for? Because it can be, whatever it is, you can get fantasized, romanticized, and seduced about something. But if people aren't going to give you their money for the product and it's not going to add value to their lives, it's not going to save them time or save them money or save them frustration, they're not going to give you a red cent. No one's ever going to give you a red cent for nothing. So yeah, I think thinking about that end product and starting off, asking friends and family and thinking about the end product and going and then working backwards from there. How much is it going to cost to make this thing? X, Y, Z. So it's a lot. It's a lot of effort. And you're right. You're not. I agree with you. There's not necessarily every business is different. I mean, you can think
Mm-hmm.
up a business idea and come and talk to Ben, or you can talk to me. And we, just because we've started a company or multiple companies, we don't necessarily have the answer. It's horses for courses a lot of the time, and every business is different and needs to be treated differently. And we need to take into account a variety of different considerations. So any other comments there, Ben?
Yeah, I think the other thing too is another great place to start is just by talking about the thing you're passionate about. Getting on a podcast, writing, and I can't say I've done this personally, but if I was to start up a new business about something surrounding that I truly loved and enjoyed, just start talking about it. Write a blog, do a podcast, just start up an Instagram account, just start talking about it for free and build an audience. Because I think once you've got an audience and people follow you and people like what you're kind of talking about, the sale or the business can come secondary to that because now you've got people listening.
Yeah.
And I think don't set your expectations too high either. Like my sportswear business, didn't make a profit for the first 12, 18 months. And even that after the 2 years, it definitely wasn't enough to live on for a long time. So I think having realistic expectations that you're not going to make money in day one or day 340,
Yeah.
you've got to have that long-term outlook. You've got to put in the hours, you've got to put in the work, because the reality is, I don't know what the number is, but it's probably above 90% of startups fail because,
Massive.
it is hard. Yeah.
First 5 years or something, it's a tremendously high figure. And, a lot of that is due to lack of capital or just ongoing expenses. You get bills thrown at you left, right, and center. And anyone, there's something that I probably wish I could have done better is when I started my company, it's always good to have a supplementary income. And it's not going to be, you're not going to be throwing out dollar bills and wearing blingy Rolexes. It's a lot of the time you're eating dirt and it's lonely. And most of the people, a lot of people don't, almost everyone doesn't care about your product as much as you. And I love what you said there about starting a conversation with people. Talk about what you want to do. And you know what? Don't talk about what you want to do. to float your own ego. Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to start this and be a millionaire. You know, if that's why you're doing it, you're not doing it for the right reasons. You start the conversation, you tell people what your idea is, and then you shut up and listen and get some ideas, because you never know. Somebody else might know something that you might not, or somebody else might have a tremendous idea that you might not. So if it's all one-way street when you're having a conversation and you're using too much of this and not much of that, not enough of that, you might miss something tremendously valuable, and it can sometimes come in the most subtle format. So start a conversation. And something else I'd say as well, if you've got an idea, don't be greedy with it. Don't think, oh, someone's going to steal my idea, because at the end of the day, it's all talk. Most people aren't going to go out and really give something a crack. And if they do, good luck to them, because it's a lonely journey, and most people that aren't obsessed with it are going to give up. And I see you smirking there, Ben, and I don't know, you might agree or disagree with what I'm saying there, but don't be necessarily greedy about your idea, because it's all good to know what to do and how to do it, but you know what? You got to do it. And that's what most people won't do. They won't execute that action. So I don't know what your comments are on that, or if you have any further comments.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, there's billions and billions of people in the world. It's probably silly to think your idea, is always unique. I think it's the execution of that idea is important, as you say. I think going out and actually doing what, taking that idea and actually taking it to launch, I think something like Uber, like it was a range of kind of other share ride apps out before Uber, but the two guys that started Uber were just better executors. They were just better at how they built the business, the way they marketed it, so even if someone else has got an idea or started up similar to yours, it doesn't mean you can't go and do it. You've just got to be better than them. So
yeah,
it's a brutal world, the business kind of industry, but that's what's exciting, right? That's, to go out and build a product that people enjoy. And your other comment there, listening to your customers, that's the biggest thing. Once you scratch your itch and, you have a product that you enjoy, we'll now go and see if there's other people out there that actually, like what you've developed, because they might have other ideas as well that you can iterate and make it more applicable to what they'd actually pay money for. So,
yeah. One of the biggest mistakes I made because I made a food delivery company. I spent a sizable amount of money on constructing a food delivery company from zero. And one of the biggest mistakes I made, and one of the biggest mistakes I've made with my other companies as well, is I forget about the first customer, and I'm too busy thinking about the hundreds of customers. I think, your goal is, even if you've got one customer, just amaze them. Make sure every customer that you have is just so stoked. And really, instead of trying to, and you could say the same thing about social media with your followers. Stop thinking about getting 100,000 followers or whatever. Make sure that every person is cherished with your heart. Start small, whether it's in your street, in your town, in your city, and then move out from there. But get that first nucleus correct before getting too ambitious and greedy. And
yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any comments on that?
I think you're right. I think you can miss steps when you're thinking too big. Like it's great to have that really long aspiration, because that's what gets you up in the morning. It's not it's not the nitty gritty stuff that really gets you really excited. So it's really important to have that long-term vision, but you've also got to live in the moment as well. And you've got to be realistic about where you are at, and the steps you need to take to get to that point. Because you're right, you can go away and spend a bucket load of money and build this thing that you're thinking that's going to be, the whole world's going to love it, but you haven't built that first customer yet, and you haven't listened to them, and you haven't kind of tick kind of box number one, right? You're trying to get to step number 10. Really got to have that a kind of foot in both courts, I think, is important.
Yeah, certainly. And another mistake that I made was not probably being too scared to put my face to my businesses. Probably being too scared. I was probably, hid behind my business logos and things like that. I think it takes guts to, even call the customer personally. Hi, my name's XYZ. I'm the owner of the company. It's really important to me that you're happy. Is there anything that you think I can improve on? You know, those types of things. Then from that, people build empathy and they want to see you do well, and they're batting on your team because they know that you really just want the best service for them. And don't, because most of the time, don't ever forget in sport, and this is a tremendous lesson I learned in dentistry. I'm a dentist, but I'm not in the dentistry business. You know what I'm in? I'm in the relationship business, finding out personal things about your customers, remembering them, using their name when you're talking to them, trying to really be focused in the moment. Hard to do when you're distracted, when you've literally, sometimes it feels like there's a fan and someone's got a big pile of cow dung, thrown it in the fan, and there's stuff going everywhere. Hard to do. You got to be tough, and at your best ability, try to be as distractionless as possible and really focus on the now and focus on that customer and really, really care for them. And something that's taken me a while to learn. I'm 30 years young. I started my first business when I was 25, 26, which is still incredibly young. You're extra, it's all relative. Yeah, so yeah,
It's a good point that
yeah.
honesty, I think honesty, and I think the whole fake it till you make it, I think that's a load of crap as well, because you get caught out, right? Especially if you're out on your own and you're trying to sell something and you're trying to portray someone you're not, or selling someone something that you know you can't back
I
up,
know
you'll get
that.
caught
Yep.
out.
I've
And
made that.
I've done that.
Oh,
I've done that as well. So I think, you can go to sleep at night much better knowing that you're just open and honest, and
yeah.
you had a product that's late, it's got caught up. I've done this before. It's got caught up in China. Something's happened. The print was wrong. Just be open and honest with your customer, because you're right. That's how you build relationships, not necessarily lying or trying to kind of weave around some of the issues, because then that snowballs, and now you've got a kind of real issue on your hands. You may lose a client because of it. So,
Yeah.
definitely a lesson I've learned.
Yeah. Oh, it's a very difficult lesson I've learned. It's hard to admit it. It's hard to
Yeah.
admit it too. And it hurts. It hurts to look back and look at yourself and think, oh, geez, I really made an idiot of myself in that situation, or the way I handled that. I'm embarrassed about that. But sometimes you've just got to man up and you've just got to tough it out and accept responsibility, accept one step back. Sometimes you've just got to accept a step back. Stop, trying to take every step forward. Sometimes you got to accept one step back, because if you don't, you might have to take 5 back, and it'll be even more painful. Tremendous
Yeah.
things that, the thing is, we could have been told this stuff before we started our first businesses, but to really feel that emotional connection and really learn that, we have to do, we all pretty much would
You
have
got to
had to
do it.
dive in. You got to dive in
Yeah. You
and
got to
do it.
do it.
You can listen to a
Uh,
Ben Simpson and Dan podcast all day long and read all the
yeah.
books you want, but until you feel that hot stove that you put your fingers on, that mum warned you not to touch, but you touched it, and you didn't listen to her, and now you know why mum said it. And sometimes we've got to make a mistake. Sometimes we've got to make the same mistake multiple times, but
Certainly.
hopefully we learn and gain wisdom. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the being in a position where you feel uncomfortable, I think that's when you're uncomfortable or challenged, you're in the right spot. When you're a little bit out of your depth, um, that's when the learning happens. And I think when you feel as though you're perhaps in cruise control, when everything's going really smoothly, you just kind of go day to day, like you're just kind of in third gear, things are kind of happening, not really too exciting, but it's also not on the downside either. I think that's where um, for me anyway, I kind of switch out of that mode and go, right, I'm not progressing here. Like I need to go and challenge myself a little bit. And, it is hard to go out and, because you do kind of get, again, those down moments when you challenge yourself and you make mistakes. But I think you've got to continually be challenged and learn and progress. And that's how you get better. And I'd recommend that to people. But like you said, you can listen to as many podcasts and read as many books as you like. Get out there and give it a crack and make mistakes and own it and jump back in the next day and
Yeah.
And go again. Don't get too hung up on that. Yeah.
Don't get too hung up on it, and don't take yourself too seriously. This pigeon chest thing, easy to say, easy for me to say, especially when you're young, but just before you start, accept the following. I'm human. I make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes and I'm not perfect. And if I make a mistake, I need to own it and not cover up and just own it. And I think if you have a real desire to get better and improve your product, not just make money, but really desire, then that'll be a lot easier for you. If you're just thinking about the money, don't do it because it's an expensive hobby. You're better off. You're
Mm.
going to make more money going out on the town and spending all your money at the bar than you will in business because it's extraordinarily expensive. When I
Totally. And
start,
I think,
yeah,
yeah, sorry, go, continue. No, my bad.
my in my second company, I set out and I said, look, if I lose it all, I'm still going to win because I know I'm going to learn something out of this. Um,
Mm.
and one of those things I learned was it was very hard for me to run multiple companies at once. I'm not saying you can't do it, but
Mm.
what advice would you give to a 17-year-old that is struggling to find direction?
Mm. Um, just do what you love, do what you enjoy, and that can be anything. I think put money aside. Like, don't think about the money to begin with. I think if you start with money, you can kind of get yourself in a bad position. Um, I think money is kind of this thing that is kind of cool and sexy and silver until you get to such a point where you kind of you get that money and go, you get there, nothing's changed. Like if you're unhappy with what you do and you're not fulfilled, that won't change, and money won't change that.
Yeah,
So try different things. I mean, I traveled to Vietnam and Cambodia on a school trip when I was kind of in high school. That was awesome. I'd love to travel again. Obviously, none of us can at the moment, but just try different things. Sport, gaming. Like, I think the gaming industry is really cool. Like, that's kind of exciting. Like, people are making decent coin off that. Like, that can be a long-term kind of career option now. Just try a bunch of different things. See what you like. Make
yeah,
a YouTube channel about making cupcakes. I don't know if you love making cupcakes. You can do anything you like. Especially now, you can create content, and I think that's kind of exciting. The YouTube channel, create a blog.
mm.
Yeah,
And creating social media for many years. I mean, I've only really just started doing it. It's scary. It's scary to put your face to something and being judged by people. Um, it really is scary. But once you do it, you realize it's not that scary. So I'd also, as the same as you, don't be afraid to make some content. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And when you do that, you'll realize that it's actually not that bad at all, and it will actually liberate others. It will actually empower others, which is what you've done, Ben. Ben,
totally.
where can people, and you know what, I'd love to have it. I think we should certainly at some point tee up a second discussion here because there's so much to get through and I want to keep things sharp. If people want to contact you, people want to contact your company, learn more about cryptocurrency, can you just tell us where we can find you?
Yeah, sure. So if you're looking to get into crypto, head to nuggetsnews.com.au. That's kind of the best place to start your journey. I mean, for young people, I think we can definitely get our head around a little bit better than maybe our mums and dads and grandmas and grandpas. But it's exciting. I think it's the new wave of money and investing and things like that. It's kind of an exciting space to jump onto there. For me, Twitter, my handle is Ben Simpson 27 or on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me a message. Or I love talking to other people that are doing business or have ideas. I've worked with a few people kind of in schools and things like that. So yeah, hit me up. I'd love to chat.